Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News. Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday. Thank you guys so much for joining me here this morning, and also appreciate you for bearing with me through my technical difficulties. I am so sorry. I think it's going to get better though. I really do. So with that, let's get into, you know, honoring God with our body. I know we have not done this in a little while, and I wanted to get back to it. So, God, please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I would think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help my hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect our reproductive organs. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please help our feet walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And as you guys remember, we're doing that for a while. I had a longer program segment so we could get it in there, but I was like, you know what? We're going to get it in and it's going to work. It's just going to work. So now let us get to our trending topics on X. The first one I wanted to get into quick. Pause that. Add that to the stage. There we go. And apparently he did, I guess, a rally. And so this is a quote from Ossoff. He says, "This is what small men like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Stephen Miller will never understand, that our national greatness flows not through our blood or our genes, but through our ideas." Now, he's saying this. Oh, and then Americans are not a race. We're a people united by ethnicity. But let me see if I can get more of that. Here we go. But by okay. So we're not a race. Americans are not a race. He's saying that. Okay. He says we're a people united not by ethnicity, but by our shared convictions. And that is what makes us exceptional. Wow. Okay. So y'all have cannibalized yourselves as the Democratic Party because everything was about race, 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 race. Remember? Everything's about race. So now you got to get away from that because you've cannibalized yourselves. Interesting, interesting. Because it is our blood and our genes that this soil exists. How else does that even happen? The problem is there was a particular party that wanted to make race a caste system. But now that you are trying to introduce people who are not of the soil, those genes and that blood, and people who shed and died to make this country what it is, you'll erase us all. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. They really don't think about things. They want to go on emotional tangents. They want us all crashing out. I'm not gonna crash out. Sorry. I don't have time for it. I don't have the emotional bandwidth for it. But I'm just saying this is silly. No, Americans are not a race. We're a nationality. As Americans, right? We are citizens under the United States. And ethnically, we are different. And that goes back to your blood and your genes. The race system that was put in place was a caste system. And you actually, if you're following the ideology of the Democratic Party, you have to get rid of race in order to introduce people that were not born here so that they can have standing. Oh, I'm following. I'm listening quite clearly. Let's see what he has to say.
To make America the world leader on human rights and return nations to the path of peaceful coexistence. And see, this is what small men like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Stephen Miller will never understand. That our national greatness flows not through our blood or our genes, but through our ideas. Americans are not a race, we're a people. United not by ethnicity, but by our shared convictions, and that is what makes us exceptional and a beacon to the world. How amazing is it that the most powerful nation on earth proclaims as its core values that all are created equal, with inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, no matter how humble our beginnings, no matter our ancestry, no matter when we arrived on these shores. In Atlanta,
no matter when we arrived on these shores, there it is. I'll let him finish.
A wave is building. The kind of wave that comes once a generation, when people have been pushed too far and they decide all at once, all together, that enough is enough.
True that. There are a lot of people that are going to say that enough is enough, because it is. We're no longer going to play the race game. But what we're not going to do is allow the 14th Amendment to continue to be abused. People cannot just come here and have children and say they're United States citizens. That's over. It should have been over. Definitely after 1986. It should have never been a thing. But we have to at least call it at 1986 because that's the last time we had amnesty in this country. He's not going to return to the Senate. You never see Ossoff unless he needs money. He doesn't want the SAVE Act. He doesn't care about this country. He just doesn't. Like, I'm going to keep it really honest for a lot of you guys out there. He does not care. But it is what it is, right? Next topic. Let's get into this. Now, this is talking about your pensions, 401ks will be free range for billionaires to get bailed out for the for their bad investments. Interesting. Comment period ends on 6/1. Take action now. So let's hear what's going on here.
Positive. So I'd like you to sort of deconstruct what he's saying and explain, what it actually means, because clearly it ain't good, and he's not speaking in a forthright fashion. So this is from Shadow of Ezra. The CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, admits the trillions of dollars being used to build data centers and power grids will come from ordinary people's saving accounts and pension funds, saying it's going to be mandatory. Let's watch.
If we could get more and more Americans to think about growing with the United States, we will have far than enough money to invest in this infrastructure. But as the governor was talking about, the need for electrons is growing every day. Some of these, if we're going to be the leader in technology, which we are, if we are going to be the leader in AI, which we presently are, it's just going to require trillions of dollars of investments. And if we don't invest in it, China will be the global leader in this. And so to me, it's not whether, this is a must. And if you think about how that translates, it translates into a more dynamic economy. We need the United States economy to grow at over 2%. We need the US economy to grow at 3%, especially with the growing deficits the federal government has. And so much of this money, not just the projects, is going to be coming from the private sector, from savings accounts, from pension accounts, from insurance companies, and on and on and on. The whole world is in need of improving the infrastructure.
So there you go. We have to. It's mandatory. They're basically not asking questions. Break down for us what he just said there. Translate that into human.
So what he said was very, very much the quiet part out loud, which is it's mandatory. We have to make the most data centers. We have to grow the most infrastructure. To be frank, China only has 10% of the data center infrastructure that we do, because they recognize that the future of compute is not going to be in data centers. Right now, these data centers are being built across an electrical grid that we've allowed to crumble over the last 30 years while China's built the most robust infrastructure improvements in the world. But they also recognize that these data centers are outdated within 3 years. By the time the walls are up, the chips that they ordered when it started are no longer relevant.
No, that's something I think, sorry to interrupt, but that's something I think people don't understand. These data centers run so hard all the time that they burn out graphics cards in 1 to 3 years, depending on their usage.
Correct.
So if you're talking about a 60,000 acre, whatever, server farm, imagine that entire landscape having to be replaced a year later, or at the most 3 years later. I don't even understand how that could even be feasible or possible with the size of data centers you're talking about. You're supposed to replace those every 3 years. Where is the material even going to come from? It's insane. People don't know that. They don't understand how all of this stuff has to be replaced constantly for data centers. The servers they operate on only last a year to 3 years.
Correct. And as you look at the fact that we're building, we're expected to have 5,581 data centers in production by the end of the year. China's the next closest with like 550. But China is also open sourcing all of their development, and they're decentralizing all of their compute, which means that it's going to be in computers. It's going to be on people's homes. It's going to be in small decentralized compute generators. And as the models get better and better, the compute mandatory is going to be less and less, which we're already seeing coming out of China in real time. But what we're seeing here in the United States are a bunch of real estate developers that scrambled to jump on this bandwagon and now are stuck in a bubble where they need to keep us believing we need this many data centers. We do not. We do not require this many data centers. And they have now invested and promised trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars through companies like Anthropic, through companies like OpenAI, through companies like Google, through companies like Grok that is now acquired by SpaceX. And that is why I sent you over the clips today about the fears related to the IPOs that are coming for Anthropic, OpenAI, and Grok, because that ties directly into this. They're now stuck in this bubble where all of these data center buildouts are being funded by private credit, and those deals are falling apart. And that's why private credit markets are starting to be halted. That's why they can't have withdrawals. That's because you're not seeing returns. It's because we have a bunch of money that's promised to all of this compute through companies that have no profit model that is viable whatsoever, that are committed to trillions and trillions of dollars. Sorry. And as they're doing it, I apologize. as they're doing it, we're seeing in real time that they don't have a way to pay it back. And they're moving it off books. Meta is a really good example right now. Meta has the third or fourth largest data center in the world being built in Louisiana. And Meta has, they moved it to a shell company. And it's hundreds of billions of dollars. And they moved it off their books, so it's no longer in their quarterly reportings to Wall Street. So it looks like they don't owe anything. But they are due to pay it back over 30 years when that data center will be obsolete within 3.
Right.
There is no viable model, and it's being funded from pensions. And the reason that this is important is because we've been talking a lot about rating of pensions. And all of this is about to wrap up in a bow to what we started talking about a year ago. So if you pull up one of the articles I sent you on the IPOs of Anthropic, OpenAI, and SpaceX,
Yep.
right now, all 3 of those companies are seeking $1 trillion plus valuations with no profitability. That has never happened before, ever, in the history of the stock market. Now, what no one's talking about is the SEC quietly approved a rule that the Trump administration pushed through just a couple months ago that said if a company came in with a valuation that high, they were guaranteed immediate access first to the Magnificent Seven, so it'll become the Magnificent 10, which are the only companies propping up our entire economy right now artificially through cyclical investment with one another, the same 100 billion passing around one after another in a circle, right? But simultaneously, there's a new rule that allows them immediate access to index funds. Now, normally there was a 12 to 18 month waiting period after a company went public that's going to IPO, okay? To prove that those big high valuations when they came in the door would have legs, that they would have profits, that those profits would pour in and that there would be returns. And after that, you got to be included in index funds. Index funds are considered a safety valve, a mechanism for investing in the stock market through your pension and your 401k that allows you to diversify your risk so that you don't, if one company falls out, your portfolio doesn't fall out. The problem is that the tech ETF fund, or ETFs index, the utility indexes, the commodities indexes are all now tied in to AI exclusively almost, right? All of the things we're buying, all of the heavy minerals, all of the water usage, all the utilities that's going there, all of the build outs of infrastructure going there, right? All of the commodities that we're buying to build out all those chips and to build out all of that infrastructure going there. And all of the tech companies are intrinsically tied there. Well, if these 3 companies, like let's look at SpaceX, $18 billion in revenue, they're seeking $1 trillion valuation. $18 billion, no profit model, they're losing $5 billion a year right now. And they're seeking $1 trillion valuation. OpenAI, their first 2 forays into trying to demonstrate profitability failed. They created Sora, it flopped in under 3 months. But they say they're going to be worth $1.6 trillion, right? And so if they get these valuations, immediately all of our retirement accounts will have to buy into them at the top of the market. The moment they hit the market, they'll be automatically added to the index funds. And that has never happened before. That's a brand new rule. No, and that is why we're going to be forced to buy them and pay for this.
It's completely insane. And it's like, what even is the promise of potential profitability? Because at least with big tech, and, it was always, Amazon, for example, would take a loss year over year, but they had a strategy where, well, as long as we get the customers and as long as they become loyal, then it will pay off down the road. Sure, we'll, give returns even though we shouldn't, and we'll lose money, but we're capturing segments of the market, consumer goods. So like there's money in the future to be had. Big tech. Sure, they might, it might be expensive to run server farms, but you get people on the platforms. Now you can start advertising to them. There was a potential for profitability there. They're not going to be bringing in trillions of dollars worth of token buys, right? Like there's absolutely no way that this becomes profitable in a traditional market system. So either it's going to be government contracts. So it's like they're taking money from the pensions to build these in the first place, and then they'll be paid back for that by the government contracts that are already guaranteed, or else they wouldn't take the risk of putting the trillions of dollars into building these in the first place if they didn't know there was going to be a return on investment out of your tax dollars. Do I have that right? At least in part?
You do. And you absolutely have that. And what people really aren't realizing is how much AI is being subsidized right now. Okay, they need to get us addicted to it. There's a reason that Sam Altman came out and said that he sees intelligence in the future as children and people not having it, and us renting it back from him as if a meter on a utility. They need us addicted to AI because they've already gone all in on this, and the bottom is going to fall out. It's not replacing real people. It's not doing the things they said it could do. The young people are absolutely anarchy, like mutinying against it. We've seen 5 consecutive commencement speeches where AI was mentioned and the speakers were booed off the stage this last 2 weeks. right? And we see this, but we also don't recognize that to get us addicted, they're subsidizing all this compute with just blatant spend and no profitability. Right now, if I spend $100 a month with Anthropic, I get $16,000 worth of compute. That is not a sustainable business model. And all of these companies that are eliminating coders and saying we're going to go to using AI to do our web development or AI to do our security protocols are realizing very quickly that when that subsidy ends, this is going to cost 5 times what an employee would have.
Yeah,
people are more effective and they're cheaper.
That's the irony, is that people are going to, basically turn their entire businesses over to these AI companies.
Electric vehicle are now saying, and we can have plants that output the energy of 70 atomic bombs.
I want to get your comment on the other side, but it's not a coincidence that these data centers are being built in such a way that's destroying the lives of the communities with this, and the aggressiveness with which they're pursuing this goal, and then criminalizing opposition to it. We've never seen anything like this in America before, but this is what it looks like. Let's watch.
Right here came by because I'm trying to organize a community protest against a representative who's trying to push in a data center owned by a out-of-state company, trying to suck up all our energy. I made a post. I made an event on Facebook trying to organize the community to get together. And what's your badge number? Name and badge number?
I detected that soon.
And name and badge number?
Sure. That's HRP and it's 160.
Okay. Yeah. I have a First Amendment right to protest. And if I organize a protest on a public road, there's nothing wrong with that. I sent an email to that representative and I can show you the email. I never made a threat. I told, no, this is my house and I'm going to talk. You guys are on my property trying to intimidate me because I'm organizing a protest against a data center. Then why are you here?
Well, that's, if you let me. Okay, so first off, do you want to talk about this?
Talk about what? There's nothing to talk about. I'm organizing a protest and I'm allowed to do that. It's a First Amendment protected activity.
110%.
Yeah.
The issue is some of the communication, the Facebook posts. I would disagree that there's.
I haven't made a single threat. Tell me what threat I made.
Okay, well, you know what you posted.
No, give me quote me. Quote a threat, because I didn't make one. I'm organizing a protest on a public street demanding a representative.
The safety of his children.
Huh?
What about the safety of his children?
Someone else made a comment about the safety of his children.
Did you?
No.
You didn't?
No, what I said if he valued his children's safety, he probably wouldn't be trying to ruin the world that they're being brought up on. And that isn't a threat. That's the fact that I'm watching this man ruin the world around here. And yes, I'm allowed to say that if someone cares about their kids, they shouldn't destroy the community that their kids are being raised in. That's not a threat.
The problem is you didn't say that in post.
Yes, I did.
You did not.
Pull it up. Pull it up and read it. Pull it up and read it.
I've been dealing with this all afternoon.
Cool. Pull it up and read it.
Okay. So that's the concerning part, is obviously, yes, you have the right to make an event, you have the right to public protest, everything else, right?
I never made a threat.
Okay. Well, we disagree, and our state's attorney disagrees. Okay, so you're going to be charged today for a couple of offenses.
Seriously? I'm going to get charged for what?
For stalking and intimidation.
For stalking? When did I ever go to his house?
We'll explain that to you more. Okay, so you are going to be placed under arrest right now, okay?
Okay, let me
conclude your live stream.
Wow.
We need you to stay here with.
I didn't even realize they actually put him under arrest. I thought this was just another case of intimidation. They actually arrested a guy for planning a protest against data centers because he says this person has kids, and if he cares about his kids, he should care about the community they grow up in, and they're interpreting that as a threat. That is a terrifying precedent to be set.
You know, they're trying to say that these are funded protests. I've got to tell you, I've never seen a more unifying movement in my adult life in the United States. We are in Maryland. I'm based in Maryland, right? I'm outside DC. Obviously, I'm in DC a lot. But I live out in very rural agricultural land, Maryland, where we are on data center road.
Oh.
Sorry, you guys.
What I'm on Instagram.
There you go. And we're talking about what's happening with data centers and private equity and
what I'm trying to get to is the comment period that ends here. So let me just share with you guys what they're going to get to. Sorry, there was a long way around that. But here is the link to the comments. And what this is about is you did hear they're saying that they want to kind of use the money. So if you have a 401k, they want to use the money for these data centers, but they just want to go in and utilize the $12 trillion that's in there and bypass it. We have the opportunity to rail against this by making a comment. So this is the universal protest going on. that needs to happen. So fiduciary duties in selecting designated investment alternatives. We need to tell them we do not want our 401ks, retirement funds supporting this AI and these data centers. We do not want that. I will leave the link below so you can watch the rest of the video. But that's what I was trying. Document contains a proposed regulation. Sorry, my microphone seems like it's going out. That clarifies and provides safe harbor for a fiduciary's duty of prudence under the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974 in connection with selecting designated investment alternatives for a participant directed individual account plan, including asset allocation funds that include alternative assets. This proposal implements Section 3C of the President Trump's executive order, democratizing access to alternative assets for 401k investors. So they're basically going to be able to dip their hands because they've already spent their money and they're in a deficit, but now they're going to be able to have access to the 401k funds to use for further investments. It's wrong, it's criminal, and it shouldn't be happening. Now, I know on the one side, Trump's like, well, if they invested, they'll be able to make more money. That's not what's going to happen. These data centers are pure evil. And good morning, Spud McKenzie. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. So let me move away from the X topics because that took up so much of my time. But the next one I want to get to, we're not going to spend too much time on it. Again, I am going to leave the video so you can watch the rest of it. But this is really incredible what is happening in Georgia.
Dollars is lost annually in America to fraud, and over $100 billion of it is in healthcare fraud.
With Georgia now ranking as one of the worst states in the entire nation, we decided to step in and investigate it. But nothing prepared us for the massive corporate pipeline we stumbled into next. We uncovered a systematic healthcare kickback scheme, shady marketing rings, pre-populated charts, and millions of dollars in medical equipment device fraud, funded entirely by your tax dollars.
Right here in Georgia, a single medical fraud syndicate was just hit with a massive $522 million federal indictment, and an elected state insurance commissioner, the very man whose job it was to oversee and police fraud, was just sentenced to federal prison for running a healthcare kickback conspiracy. But the money trail doesn't stop at a clinic door, a random suburban call center, or even at the commissioner's office. We follow the money lines all the way to a major civil settlement involving a multi-billion-dollar healthcare network.
And that led us to this guy, Rick Jackson.
The guy that is running to be the next governor of Georgia.
And I'll leave that right there. And I'll leave the rest of the video. But basically, they go on to explain how his company was able to, I don't want to say defraud, and I'll say allegedly defraud individual, order things that they didn't need from the federal government, and then bill Medicaid for it. And it all make this like nice little circular pattern. Yeah, but that's how Mr. Jackson made most of his money, off of government contracting, even though he tries to stand there and say, well, I supported this person and I did this. You did with how you did it. You did that. You didn't physically make anything tangible. You made your money off of government contracts. Just saying. Sounds like the Rick Scott way to the top. Absolutely. Absolutely. And next, I'm going to play a little bit of a short clip from Ron DeSantis, and he's got some things to say about Florida.
When necessary, we will take aggressive legal action to remove negligent owners and property managers. And for buildings that have suffered chronic neglect, we will work to transfer ownership to responsible stewards. Stewards that include community land trusts, nonprofits, or even the tenants themselves.
And that's New York City Democrat Socialist Mayor Zohran Mamdani vowing to seize property from owners that the city determines have failed to upkeep their buildings. It's part of Mamdani's housing plan to build 200,000 new subsidized homes and preserve another 200,000 over the next decade at the cost of $22 billion. Meanwhile, in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis is proposing property tax relief for residents that would raise the homestead exemption from $50,000 to $250,000, which he says would eliminate property taxes for some 60% of Florida homeowners. DeSantis is also calling a special session for Florida's state legislative session tomorrow, which, if approved, would put the measure on the ballot this November. Joining me now in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive live is the 46th governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. Governor, great to have you this morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, what a contrast looking at what you're doing in Florida and what they're doing in New York. Walk us through your housing plan and why this exemption lift is so important in terms of property values and taxes.
Well, Maria, at the state level, we're one of the lowest, if not lowest, tax states in the country. No income tax, generous exemption on our sales tax for core items. We've eliminated taxes like business rent and all that, and we're proud of that. And our spending has reflected it. I'm going to sign a budget later this month or next month that will represent 4 straight years of spending reductions in the state of Florida, and we're very proud of that. But at the local level, which is where the property tax revenue goes, we've gone from local governments taking $32 billion in 2019 in taxes to now $60 billion. That's almost 100% increase in revenue. And look, part of it is people have moved here. Part of it is that property values have gone up. But homeowners need relief. And so it's my view that if you are a Florida resident and you have a homestead, we want that to be tax-free. And so that's our vision. That represents about 30% of the overall property tax revenue because they still tax investment property, commercial property. And so this ballot measure will do an opening salvo of raising it, the exemption to $250, adjusted for inflation, so they can't play games. That will be 60% of Florida homesteaders tax-free. Then as they raise it, the legislature will be able to raise that and have a process to do that. Once you get to 500,000 limit, that's 92% of homeowners, and then on it goes from there. But if we don't give homeowners relief, Maria, by 2032, they're going to be taking in $83 billion. So that would mean $32 billion in 2019. 13 years later, it goes to $83 billion. That is not sustainable. And so this is really a historic opportunity to have more money in people's pockets and to actually have their home be their private property that the government just can't use as a piggy bank.
Well, this is incredible. And, you know, with all of these tax attractions that have attracted so many people to Florida, a lot of people are wondering, how do you do it? I mean, you know, you've got critics there saying local governments will have to make up the lost revenue somewhere. So how do you do that? If you've got no income tax, you're cutting property taxes, possibly eliminating them. Where are you getting the money to fund government and everything else, all the other services?
Well, so, you know, we're focusing on homestead. Obviously, they tax property that are non-homestead residential, Airbnb, Canadian snowbirds, commercial. That's a lot of money that they have. And so even if we eliminated homestead revenue entirely, that would just put their budgets back to like 2021, 2022 levels. But we're phasing it in, so it's a very, I think, manageable process. So I don't think you need to, quote, make up. I think they should start figuring out ways to change their spending so that taxpayers benefit. However, in our proposal, because we have surplus at the state level, we are creating a fund that will be able to issue grants to local governments. So if you really say, you know, you need help with a fire or sheriff's department or education, we'll have grants that we're going to be able to do that for this period. But what's going to happen is this is going to increase the economic base of all these local areas because people are going to have more money in their pocket. They are going to start getting more revenue from existing taxes without having to add new taxes, and they're going to end up in a very stable situation very shortly. And not even going to need this state money. But what they're not going to be able to do is go from $60 billion in revenue to $83 billion over the next 5 years. We can't afford that to happen. So it really represents a big, I think, benefit to the taxpayer, but it does represent a spending restraint on local governments. I mean, look, we've had inflation, we've had population growth, but look at Florida's state budget. We're doing massive things. Everglades restoration is the largest environmental restoration in the history of the U.S.
I'll pause him there and you can watch the rest of the video. But he goes on to just talk about a lot of the financial things that they've been able to do successfully there without undercutting the taxpayer. Because here's the thing. Democrats view the taxpayer as their base of revenue to actually fund their state. That's not how this is supposed to work. Not off of your constituents. You're supposed to use the tax revenue you get from businesses. But what they do is they give these businesses such a tax break to entice them to come to their state, but they put that burden on their taxpayers. And that's what they shouldn't do. Your property, to Governor DeSantis' point, should not be their personal piggy bank. And to that end, why are your budgets so inflated for your cities? Why are people making over $750,000 working for the city? This is happening, or working for the county. No one at the local level should have a six-figure salary, period. Period. And you might want to say, well, it depends on the location they live in. If you can't make it off of $80,000 a year, I'm sorry, don't work there. Figure something else out. But it shouldn't be a burden on the taxpayers. That's what it should never be. Okay, so the last video that I wanted to play, because my husband and I were watching it last night, and I thought this really tied everything in that we've been watching, was Animal Farm.
Cock-a-doodle-doo!
Hi, Lucky.
What's up?
We are going on vacation.
I do hope it's somewhere good.
What does that say?
Laughter House!
That sounds awesome. I love to laugh.
It's a slaughterhouse.
Look at all this deliciousness. They want this.
Do you want to be food, or do you want freedom? Then let's fight for it! We're free! Whatever goes upon two legs is an enemy.
4 legs, good. 2 legs, bad.
No animal shall wear clothes.
Huh? What? We're show pigs.
And all animals are equal.
Animals running a farm? I had to see it for myself.
Thank you. Aw, so cute.
Activate cute eyes.
I'd rather gouge them out. I want that farm.
We should move into the farmhouse so the humans know we're in charge.
You are about to become my new best friends. Pigs and humans working together. I like the optics.
Oh, we love the optics. What are optics?
I think it's a kind of seafood. You're wearing clothes!
Would you look at that? I am.
Everything's different, but we're still friends.
All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
This is our home.
Squealer!
I parked the car!
Let's have no one do that again.
Animal Farm, A Cautionary Tales. In theaters May 1st. Recommend.
Yeah, it is a very cautionary tale. And you think, oh, it's a cartoon for kids. No, I would recommend that adults watch it. There's no profanity in it, but it's the context of it. I think it would be good for children, maybe at least 10, 9, 10, because they should be reading at this level, right? And it's a reminder of where we're going, just looking at the different states, New York to Florida, where New York is actually taxing people to the point where they're fleeing the state. They're going to Florida, and Florida's like, well, we want to be able to support, the influx of people, but we don't want them to be burdened with taxes. Totally opposite mindset. And Florida's doing better than New York. Right? That's just an example. And then you saw the other example where, laws are being written to allow hedge fund managers that have misused their money to use other people's money to further invest so they can get the money faster without proving that the data centers even make money. They want us to invest in this, even without our consent. When I saw that movie I was like, whoa, okay. Because when you read it, you kind of have to imagine what's going on. But when you see it, yeah, it's just a strong reminder of the de-evolution that we are headed to, not evolution. See, we should become better because we're becoming better. Now, because we have things to make us better, right? Technology, yes, it should evolve. But the technology that's being developed, it's not creating freedom. It's creating slavery. Yeah. And that's my cautionary tale for our Monday recap. So again, thank you guys for joining me here. We will be back tomorrow with Tell It All Tuesday. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.